And finally on the show today, we have a Discord discussion I still don't know how we're starting the Discord discussions. Probably by telling you what the subject is. Over on our Discord, we had a suggested topic from Seagoat777. And Seagoat writes, how do you consume your RPGs? Physical
I eat them.
copies? You do what?
I eat them. That's how I consume my RPGs.
Oh, okay.
I'll let you continue, though.
I like to rub them on like a lotion. Physical copies or digital copies? Seagoat says, personally, I prefer physical copies, especially where the quality of the final product is high. However, I have no problem buying digital copies and then printing them out for my own leisurely reading. He writes more, but I'll get to that later. So let's just kind of discuss that. What do you prefer? You looking at physical or digital? What do you like, and what do you have a lot of?
I prefer physical. I like having the book in my hands. I like the feel of the paper. I like it's kind of like paper book versus ebook.
Yeah.
Kind of deal. I would prefer to have a physical copy if I'm going to be consuming something than looking at a bright screen the entire time.
Yes.
I love physical copies because you can put them on a shelf if you want to. I have these ones here. These are my Player's Handbook, Monster Manual, and DMG for 5e.
Sure.
I enjoy physical books. However, I find that with digital copies, especially PDFs that are searchable, it is much easier to sometimes find content and obscure things that you are looking for. Such as rules or references, or just to go to a specific page at a touch.
Yes.
That is really nice. PDFs on your phone, for instance, if you have them, can be really, really handy, just so you don't have tons of books all over the place. And maybe everyone doesn't have a physical book. Maybe you can then take and go, here's this PDF you can look at.
Right.
Or if you've only got one copy of the book, you can then pass around the PDF without having to crack open the book every single person. And for newer players, again, too, the searchability of a digital asset is much handier if they're like, all right, well, what is the rule for disengage? And then want to look it up, but they're not sure where in the physical book you'd look. You can type it into your PDF or whatever type of format you're using and be like, oh, it's right here. So I like both for different reasons. Obviously, I have like my old 3.5 DMG, I tabbed out the entire book into sections.
Oh.
So that's super handy too. You can do that with physical books, but it's still not as searchable as a PDF would be.
I see. Okay. Yeah. I don't actually own a lot of physical books, maybe just because of the amount of like role playing that I typically do. Like when I start thinking about it, I don't really think I've done RPGs in person for at least 10 years.
Since that one with me, I assume.
Yeah, that was pretty much the only time. So everything else has been online. So the actual book part, not really a big priority for me. The one that I do have, well, the few that I do have are mostly when I kickstarted things, or I was part of a Kickstarter. So like the Open Legends source books, I have those. I think I have Teddy Bear Island, or I have a book about Teddy Bear Island. So I do have a few things like that, but I think the reason why digital stuff usually appeals to me is mostly because if I am doing a lot of online sessions, or if I'm doing streaming or anything like that, it's more convenient for me, just because I'm going to be at the computer anyway, but also if I need to make sure that I'm referencing something and somebody else also has that PDF handy, they can say, go to this line, right? Like we can look at the PDF at the same time, and I can say, yeah, I'm seeing this here, and we can reference it there. So it's more of a convenience thing. And also, sometimes if you're able to like search the document, it's usually easy to do a digital search inside of your document than to try and like go to the go to the index and then figure out which page is
Yeah.
referencing for the thing.
I definitely, where you use it online for games, that definitely makes sense. Where you'd rather have a digital copy on your screen in front of you while you're gaming.
Yeah.
Like even because you and I both have dual monitor setups, so you can have your book over here and your camera over here.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I need to do this, and then you can like look over there. And the other thing with that is on the computer, if you're playing on that, you can also have like notes, or, like a notepad open or something up like that. That you can
Yes.
have all your stuff in if you need to,
Right.
as opposed to like having a physical notebook, which again is great to have, but it becomes a lot more difficult to manage that
Right.
in certain aspects.
Right. Even in the physical realm of things, I would say it's probably more useful if you're like the GM just to have a digital copy, only because those books, when you have to have like you have to have the monster manuals and the GM manuals and the splat books or anything like that. That's just a lot to be carrying around with all of your equipment.
It is.
And so it's probably more portable for you if you can just have it on a phone or a tablet even, and you can just load it up.
One of my friends years ago, when I was hanging out with them and was going to their place to play different RPGs and all that, had just like an iPad, and they just used the iPad for an RPG library.
Sure.
So it was like, oh, here's all the books I've got, which may or may not have been legally acquired. Because, you can find PDFs anywhere online. But just a ton of books. So it's like, all right, yeah, go through any of these books. It was all the Warhammer books, role-playing games, all the D&D, Pathfinder, etc. And it's just, you can have those sorted out into a library. And so, like, to me, that's the ideal use of an iPad.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I don't use tablets, like, at all, ever.
Right.
But as something, like, just to have a book in front of you, easily going through, that is really handy, because a laptop is a lot bulkier, too.
Yeah, it certainly is. When I started playing the 1879 game, obviously it was just easier for them to, like, send me a PDF that had just, like, character designs and stuff like that, and they could just throw that over to me rather than trying to send me a book, because it's free, just right through the ether, and then I have one, and I know that I'm referencing the same thing in real time. So that's handy. I've also found that if I'm doing 5e, to be completely fair and to give props to D&D, the Beyond character creator that they have on D&D Beyond is really good, because they'll let you like lay it all out. They'll go through the individual stats. They'll generate your entire character thing. They'll let you click on individual parts of it if you want to roll for like different stats. So like I can say like, yeah, this is my perception and I have a +8 or whatever to perception. And if I just click on perception, it will roll a virtual die for me and tell me what I got on that roll. Same for like
neat.
saves and stuff. It just does that. So I just find that incredibly convenient and very streamlined, and it's well thought out. I'd love to see more companies start implementing stuff like that for digital character sheets and stuff. But I think the possibilities of that, like virtual element, are really handy, and it made it a lot simpler for somebody that's new like me.
Yes.
To systems to figure it out, because honestly, if you had just given me a physical one and show me the player character book, the player facing book, I probably would get very lost and not sure if I was making the character correctly in the first place.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so I understand that. It is very nice, like you were saying, to have physical copies of books, though. If I ever redo my background, I'll put what I have out for those books, because it's great to have them, and it is hard to get away from the feeling of actually holding that in your hands and paging through it and getting to like really see the artwork and really just like hold it in your hands, especially if you have a power outage. That's also handy.
Right.
But I think the reason why we tend to do digital copies is really for the convenience of it.
Yeah.
More than anything. And
Definitely.
the portability. Yeah.
Yes.
Um,
And because they weigh a lot less than all those books in physical copy.
exactly. The weight of it and the bulkiness of it is definitely. I remember, like, back in the day, I keep thinking, like, the original D&D players, the original role players, they must have gotten a good workout lugging those things around. You know, those were heavy tomes to be carrying around with you. You needed a lot of them. Seagoat also wrote that way back in the day, anytime you wanted something from a book, you had to get a photocopy of it.
Oh, yeah.
Be this a character sheet, weapons, or spell tables or monster stats. It is much easier to print those bits out you need from digital products, or screen capture and build your own document to finally print for the table. So I can see that digital project will be here to stay, as it makes everything much easier. I still prefer a physical copy to handle and read, though. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any possibility of the digital market going away for this. I think it's sticking around. I don't see one day where they just kind of go, why aren't there any digital copies of Green Books?
One day when the EMPs go off and we've all lost technology.
Yeah, exactly. What are we going to do now? But especially for the individual parts of it, I do like the idea of being able to jump to stuff, especially for spell tables, monster tables, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I especially found that when I had Snowball and I ended up summoning the bear and the goat, I legitimately didn't know what the stats for that were. And luckily, there's a page for that you can just search on on D&D Beyond and say, "Yep, these are the stats for the brown bear. You enjoy." And so it's like, okay, great, yeah, it's easy. Somebody can find, if I can't find it, somebody can find it and send me a link to that, and then I can find it. So very helpful, very helpful. But in general, if you had to choose between the two, which one would you prefer to have?
Oh, man, in general, if I had to choose and could only use one?
Yeah.
Man, that's difficult. I'd probably go digital.
Yeah, I'm kind of in agreement with you just for the flexibility of it.
Yeah.
It kind of what it comes down to. I like the idea of the owning of the physical copy. I really like the owning of the physical copy that I could put in my hands, but if we're being practical about it, the portability of having a digital copy that I can access from different things and move around.
Man, maybe this is why people are buying NFTs.
It all comes back to that. Don't give them the idea to make an NFT.
Around.
Make an NFT out of the rule books. Oh my god, no. No one will ever play that game. It's
Exactly.
not going to happen.